Welcome back to Movie Magic Reviews, brought to you by Megadads. I'm Antonio, joined here by my best buddy Clay, and today we're going to talk about the brand new film Borderlands and let you know if it's worth your time, if it's worth your money, if you should see it. But before we begin, quick reminder that we do start speaking about the film spoiler free. So it's a spoiler free discussion, then only after we warn you at the very end do we talk some spoilers. We talk about the things that we just got to talk about with your friends after you leave the theater and you're just like, we got to talk about it. So we'll give you a warning before all the spoiler talk. So let's get into our spoiler free discussion of Borderlands. But before we do, let's hit up IMDb really quick to get an idea of the film. Borderlands, directed and written by Eli Roth, co-written by Joe Abercrombie, starring, and I wanted to expand this cast list really quick because we have a lot of people here. Kate Blanchett as Lilith, Kevin Hart as Roland, Edgar Ramirez as Atlas, Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, Ariana Greenblatt as Tiny Tina, Florian Montague as Craig, Gianna Gavarnkar as Knox. I know she's in other stuff, but anyway, Jack Black as Claptrap. Very well, actually, I want to say Marcus. Benjamin Byron Davis as Marcus. I'll leave it there because there's a lot more people in the film. A little synopsis for you. These are always terrible. Based on the best-selling video game, this all-star action adventure follows a rag team of misfits on a mission to save a missing girl who holds the key to unimaginable power. Clay. This movie famously got a 0% initially on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie is supposed to be absolute trash. Literal dog water. Me and you, we've played Borderlands.
Right.
Okay. What did you think going in? Did you have high hopes?
Actually, I kind of did. I blame the Fallout TV show for that.
Right? Set the bar kind of high for video
Right.
game adaptation.
Part of me thought maybe this is the year where, like, we've had some really good ones recently. Last of Us last year was really good, and like, maybe things are turning around for video game media, movies, and television. But I won't say I'm the biggest Borderlands fan. I barely played the first one. Wasn't really digging it. But then you, me, and our buddy David played the third one together, and I actually
never played 2. Wow.
Yep, skipped 2, but really had fun with 3 and enjoyed it. Just to show you how little I know really about this game and this series, my wife asked me what it is this like a zombie movie, and I was like, no, it's like a post-apocalyptic movie or a game or whatever. And then we get in there and it's like the beginning's talking about space and space travel, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, okay. Clearly I don't know a lot about this because I completely forgot that this was like a space planet kind of thing. I just remembered being on like a desert area with a bunch of crazy lunatic guys from Mad Max or whatever. So I definitely wasn't picking up all of the references and things in this movie. So please don't look at me as some like person who knows a lot about Borderlands, because clearly I don't know. So I went in hopeful, good actors. I like Eli Roth. I think he's made some good movies, and so I was like, all right, there's some potential here. And so I went in hopeful. I don't really believe, I put very little faith in critics and what they think of video game movies, especially. And so part of me, I was like, well, maybe since I know it a little bit and I've played the games a little bit, maybe I'll appreciate it more than these critics would. So that was kind of me going in. What about you?
I played Borderlands 1, 2, 3. I don't think I've completely finished them, but I've gotten deep in all of them. I even played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands a bit, and it's yeah, it's a lot for somebody who, like, for those who maybe wouldn't know, it's Borderlands is a co-op shooter. It's really about shooting things, action, tongue-in-cheek humor, getting loot and different weapons that have crazy effects on them, and the randomness of what you get in your drops, and trying to get the most destructive and fun weapons, and just having fun with your buddies, running around these wastelands on Pandora and other planets that are supposedly like, it's just a good time. You're supposed to kind of turn your brain off a little bit. So I figured that they had potential to turn this into a movie with some some chops. You know, you had enough going in, and I would say that the most disappointing thing of all is that it doesn't take advantage of what was there. Like, it's supposed to be kind of crude humor. I don't think anybody in the theater laughed once, maybe one time. You have a a character in Claptrap that's supposed to be he's supposed to be like an annoying character. He's a little robot dude played by Jack Black in the film, and he's supposed to be annoying but in a funny way, and they did not pull it off in the slightest. When I left the theater, first thing that happened is this dude turned to his buddy and he's like, "I didn't hate it." And I gotta actually agree with him. It wasn't total trash to me. I told you see it in Dolby because one of the pros for me was that the action, the guns felt really like punchy. Like everything was too loud watching this in Dolby, and I really enjoyed it for the violence part of it. The explosions and stuff, like everything was too much, and that's kind of what the game's known for. And I almost wish they would have pushed it further, but quite honestly, long story short, it was bad. It wasn't good, but I don't think it was like as bad as people were saying it was gonna be. What do you think?
I think it was bad.
Like really bad,
Yeah.
like unwatchable.
Um.
Not being
No.
familiar with the games, like I wouldn't be surprised that you would say that. Honestly,
No. I mean, I wouldn't say it's unwatchable, but I've never felt a stronger pull towards the idea of getting up and just like bouncing in the middle
really,
of in a movie theater. I've never walked out of a movie in a movie theater, but this one I felt if I hadn't brought my wife and my buddy, who they both paid for their tickets, you and I both have subscription services, I would have had no problems walking away since I'm not technically paying for it. Um, but if I felt bad bringing them there. I was like, but thankfully it was my buddy who was like the one who really wanted to go, and so I went because of the show. But it was like otherwise, if it was just me on my own, I probably wouldn't have gone ever. But anyway, regardless, I thought it was really bad. After about the first 20 to 30 minutes was when I was like, I could still leave now and like salvage the rest of my evening or whatever. And so I thought about it, and I just realized about 30 minutes in, I was just like, it's just not going to get any better. I think what I'm seeing right now is how it's going to end. I mean, I was doing okay. I was like you. I don't think I laughed maybe one time. Um, so it just wasn't that it was funny as I thought it was going to be. And then I've got other thoughts, but yeah, overall, I didn't think it was good
out of
at all.
curiosity, what did your people that you went in? I mean, they're also, you know, gamers, but not familiar. Like, is Baker familiar with the series,
No,
the
never
franchise?
played it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
him
what did they
and
say? What is their opinions? Out
well,
of
I think
curiosity.
they just thought it was terribly written. I just think that
Mm,
the acting and some of the writing was really bad, and so I think that was
wow.
more what was turning them off. And then some of the CGI I thought was really rough, and I think my wife was kind of pointing that out. Like there'd be things that just didn't look very good.
Yeah.
That would happen. We're like, yeah, that a lot of this movie looks like it was filmed in front of a green screen and just not done very well.
Mhm.
Um, but then at the end, when I came out of it, I found myself kind of defending the movie a little bit, kind of like what you said, like with Claptrap, like, oh, he was so annoying. It's like, well, yeah, that's by design. Like that's the way
Mhm.
that character is. In fact, one of the reasons I was defending it is I remember when we used to play Borderlands 3 together, you, me, and David would be talking while we were playing, and I just remember like trying to have a conversation with you, and then there were people like screaming and yelling in my ear, and just like obnoxious conversations happening in the game, not from you
Yeah.
guys, but from the game. And I just remember thinking like, wow, Borderlands is like I get it, that's what they're going for, but it's like it's almost like obnoxious. Like they're
Yeah.
almost like purposely being obnoxious. And so at loud volumes with these big old headphones on, after a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, do they ever shut up? Like, and so I kind of found myself like defending, like, was was Tiny Tina's little was her character like great? A lot of people probably found her annoying and kind of like stupid, but it was like, well, I actually think she played the part pretty well. Like, if you know that character, like you kind of know that's just the way she is. Same with Claptrap. So I don't know. I think some of it's just the base material, and then Hollywood picking it up and going, how do we work with this? What do we do with this? And so, but I still think overall the most glaring thing is just bad writing and just really cheesy lines.
The people, the performances, some of them were better than I expected. Kate Blanchett, who plays Lilith, when they introduce her character, she's supposed to be the typical like I don't care about anything but money type thing, kind of reckless. And I think that she played it well. And then Jamie Lee Curtis is supposed to be like eccentric and very like not in tune with anything but the science and like emotionless a little bit when she probably shouldn't be, and she did that really well. Kevin Hart, dog water. Like Edgar Ramirez phoned it in. Florian playing Craig is like, he has a mask on, he really can't do too much. Claptrap, Jack Black, the writing was absolutely atrocious. Ariana Greenblatt with Tiny Tina, you bring her up, and like that character could have been done so well. Like it's supposed to be a contrast. It's like, oh, this cute little girl, but she's so violent and volatile, and it's supposed to be like they didn't dial that up at all. They put that up to like a 3 or 4 when it
Yeah,
should have been at a 9, 10 the whole time. Cause I remember like she would do things and I'd be like, the audience is probably shocked because they're like, whoa. It's because they didn't set it up right that she's like out of her mind. But anyway,
right.
keeping it spoiler free, I honestly thought that some of the acting was better than it could. Like I was surprised. I was like, wow, they did a decent job. The other positive of it is it stuck true to the visuals of the game, from the set design to some of the weapons to the vehicles to like the whole thing was done kind of like Fallout, where you're like, these sets are pretty good. Like a lot of it looked like the game and somebody studied up and did their job, and that's the most I can give it, unfortunately. But I don't think it does enough for those who like the video games to be like, this is a great adaptation. This is a great rendition. It was kind of by the numbers, surface plot, turn your brain off. And then there's the problems, because every movie has problems. And this one was just atrocious. And like we'll talk about it in the spoiler version of this the thing, but some of the things were like, why is this written this way? It's making the movie worse for no good reason. You could have spent 5 minutes figuring out another way to deliver this scene, or like plot point to plot point, and it would have been better, but nobody cared. So I'm hearing that they spent a lot of money on making this film and didn't make a lot back. Anything else bother you, or anything that you could give it some more props for, that a reason for people to see it? I would say in Dolby, action packed. It has some decent action, but nothing like to write home about.
Yeah. One good thing, I think Kate Blanchett did a decent job. I thought she was pretty good.
Yeah,
Her
surprising.
character wasn't bad. Kevin Hart was fine.
Dog water.
He's hard to take serious when he's playing a legitimate, like, powerful and like dangerous soldier.
Yeah,
That
his
was a little,
character's supposed to be that. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's a different role for him. So it's like, oh, he's not just the little goofball man the entire time. But he didn't get enough screen time anyways that it really even mattered. And still, some of his lines were just terribly delivered. But um, other than that, dang it, there was one other thing I was gonna say. I'm trying to think of what it was. Um, I can't remember what it is, so we'll just we'll move
it's
past it.
it's hard to like, the game is supposed to be focused on gameplay, right? And the guns and the variations of them, and they kind of skip over this fact so quickly. There's like some lost potential there for people who may be into like quirky and cool fun like gun stuff, and like how it shoots, and like a lot of it we're just seeing like some standard bullets flying around for the movie, but they have a lot more to play with that they never tap into um when they get into like the kind of supernatural stuff and all that. They don't they wait until like the end, and it's just odd. So there's a lot of missed opportunities. Long
Yeah,
story short, for me, they didn't do enough with what they had. It's not going to be good for someone who's a fan of the game, and it's definitely not going to be good for somebody who's not familiar with the game. It's not a movie you can just take anyone to and have them be like, "Oh, this is great." They're gonna be like, "What the hell is happening here?" It's so weird. So yeah,
Yeah. The one thing I remember what I was going to say. The one thing I think that could have maybe redeemed this movie, I think if it had been rated R.
it
Um
wasn't. Oh my
no, it's
god. Okay.
PG-13. I think
Ew.
the action I think was a little like light. It wasn't obviously
Muted. Yeah.
it wasn't super gory and stuff. And I feel like
Mhm.
Borderlands probably should have been. Um
Absolutely. It's about
obviously
shooting things and people.
Right. It's kind of like Fallout where it's just kind of known for being like a little over the top. And so it felt a little tame and it was like, well, maybe if there was like not that fights have to be gory to like be good, but sometimes like just seeing a good like head getting cut off or a limb getting sliced, like sometimes that can like redeem a movie a little bit if it has decent action scenes and everything just kind of felt PG-13. Like people were
Yeah.
getting hit with things, but it was never like there wasn't a whole lot of realism to the combat and all that, so it was just a little lacking too. I think that might have been able to save it a little bit, and but so that was just another glaring thing. Like I don't care if they don't drop f-bombs or whatever, like that doesn't bother me, but i I also think that Borderlands is a very stylized video game visually. Obviously they have like the cell shading kind of stuff where it looks like it was drawn or whatever. Obviously they didn't need to go that far with it, but this film feels very just kind of bland visually. There's no like they didn't do any kind of like flourishes to kind of give it more of like a goofy silly effect, kind of like you'd see in like Suicide Squad or something. And so I feel like something like that
True.
too, where there was a little more style to it, or something just a little make it a little more visually quirky. I don't know, maybe could have helped it. This feels it was like it was just kind of filmed really safe. So
You're
uh,
right. No, 100%. I didn't notice that before, but you're right. No, I totally agree. Yeah, like the shots weren't very interesting ever. Yeah, understood. Yeah. Star rating for me then, wrapping it up, I would have to give it I don't think it's fair to give this movie a 2 star. I wanted to, but I'm going to give it the 1. It does absolutely nothing very impressive. I don't think it's going to hit for literally anyone. Even if you're giving it going in with super low expectations, you're going to leave just saying, I didn't, at the most, you're going to say, I didn't hate it. And I think that deserves like 1.5 stars, honestly, at the top. What do you think?
I have a hard time recommending this movie to pretty much anybody. I mean, if you're not familiar with the series, I feel like you won't appreciate it, and if you are a fan of the series, I feel like you also won't appreciate it. So it's kind of a weird thing because it's like, well, if you like the game, go watch the movie, and maybe that's true. But like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are Avatar: The Last Airbender fans who wish they never went and saw M. Night Shyamalan's version of that property, and so it's like maybe it's just best if you really love Borderlands to just leave it alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's definitely a 1 out of 5 for me.
It's the opposite of the Fallout TV show effect where people wanted to play the game. I have no desire to play Borderlands after watching this.
It does
Well,
make
that'll
Twisters seem like a better movie though, if you
Yeah, that's why I can't give it a 2 star because I was like, come on, honestly, I would see Twisters 2, 3 times before I saw this again. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Movie Magic Reviews. We'll be back next week with the very latest of what's in theaters. We're going to be talking spoilers now, so go ahead and tune off if you haven't seen the film. Once you see it, if you see it, or if you just want to hear our spoiler remarks about it, we got to talk about it, me and Clay, right now. Clay, the most
Mm,
atrocious scene in the movie to me was when Claptrap is the distraction and he goes out there and gets shot by a bunch of raider guys, and he's shot like a million times, shakes it off, and I guess I don't know how he gets away from them after getting
right.
shot. He like runs away slightly. I don't know. Then he meets up with the crew after he's been a successful distraction, shakes it off, and he's fine. This was atrocious at all levels. It was a like, how do you make that boring? Like, it's stupid to even like, is he supposed to be invincible? Is that the whole thing? I don't know.
They kind of
That I just
explain
had to
that
say that.
when they introduce them, they're like, "Yeah, bullets don't really do anything to me." So
Yeah. I was dumbfounded. Like he could have just started getting shot and like ran away and then they all start chasing him, and now
Right.
you have like, instead you needed to add a stupid part to a stupid movie that just made it a little worse. Like nobody in the writers room, nobody is going to be like, maybe we shouldn't do it this way. He could still, poo the or drop the bullets out of his butt or whatever's happening afterwards. But can we just skip this part of where he just shakes it off and it's fine? Like this makes no sense. Anyway, that's all I had to say before I exploded. I had to talk to somebody
Hmm.
about it. How about you? Thoughts?
Yeah, so the big twist of the movie, which I think most people probably saw coming because it wasn't like
Mhm.
that big a thing, is just that our main character, Lilith, ends up being the chosen one. Who'd have thunk the main character with no parents who has a mysterious past and people tell her she's destined for great things ends up becoming the chosen one. Like, ooh, big shocker. And then she grows fire wings and flies around a little bit. And it was kind of a lackluster like ball drop if you ask me. But
It wasn't really telegraphed. Like at the very, very slightest, they like talk about the Firehawk, but it's like right before it happens too. So it's like it's not even like it's a thing.
right, it's just forced
But then
in.
it but all of a sudden it's a thing. And if you know the games, you know that, this happens in the games. So it was completely spoiled if you knew,
Oh
what was
really?
coming. Yeah, it's part of the story. So um, yeah, nothing interesting happened beat for beat. The thing that I wanted to say that Kate Blanchett's character did, which was cool, is in the very beginning where she shoots everyone in the bar, and then the guy's like trying to be like, "Hey, but not me. I'm the big boss or whatever." And then she shoots him. She's like, "I didn't." She's like, "I literally don't care. Like, I don't." Yeah, and then they end up finding like a way to write it where he can continue to talk. But I thought that was great. It was unexpected violence,
Hmm.
which I'm like, it set the tone for the film. Like, oh, okay, they are gonna go like the whole way with it. And if you just kept giving me moments like that, I would have cared. But the delivery by, in particular, Kate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis, again, their acting I thought was pretty decent for what
Yeah.
they were saying and doing. I believed it, and I was just like, oh, you guys are way too talented to be in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
you're pulling this off. I don't know.
The more I think about this movie, the more frustrated that I am that I didn't like that I couldn't enjoy it. I really like these kinds of movies where they're like team ups and there's like a team of people that are working together and they're all kind of quirky and different in their own ways. You got the really strong guy and then the little person and then the soldier and the nerd and the main character. Like one of my favorite movies of all time is the Guardians of the Galaxy
Mhm.
series. And this is kind of like that where they tried to kind of group all these people together to do this one common task and stuff. And I usually like that stuff. I like when there's different unique characters that are quirky and different and then they end up working together and fighting. And there's a lot of movies like that and I think a lot of times it's really cool. This one had some of that, but I should have liked it a lot more than I ended up, but they just didn't pull it off. So
It wasn't earned. Like in the beginning, you have Craig somehow like befriending Tiny Tina and saving her, but it was the worst setup ever. It's like in point 0.5 seconds, this dude just breaks out of his cell and then just picks her up and being like, I want to take care of her. Had they just did one scene where she's nice to him and like gives him some food or like, protects him or like says something nice to him, then you could have had a setup where it's like, for some reason now this psycho is going to be nice to this girl back. And now you have a bond, but they didn't want to waste that time with some character development. They also never explain why Roland's character really saves the girl and breaks her out. They like allude to it like 3 times on on different occasions. Like he has a conscience about something or so. I don't know,
mm,
but you didn't do a flashback or anything. So like you don't know why he's doing what he's doing,
yeah.
and it doesn't matter. In fact, he has like a companion character that they have some history with, Knox, and she gets like vaporized in point 0.5 seconds, and like you're supposed to care, I guess. But again, they didn't set it up. So it was like, again, surprising violence, but no payoff to it because you didn't care about the character because they were so B plot. It was like
Yeah.
it was bad. It was bad. And then Tiny Tina was so underutilized. Like she stabs somebody, I believe, at one point, and I was like, "Oh, that was violent." Or like she starts killing people, and I'm like, "Man, you failed as writers because you didn't set up that she was literally murderous and crazy like
Mm.
earlier, and then it was kind of awkward that they had her kill just a few people, and I was just like, they could have played into this super interesting character that is like a mainstay of the franchise, Tiny Tina, like awesome. And it would have been fun. Audiences would have been like, "Whoa, this little girl over here, but she's crazy violent." Like, and they didn't. They underutilized her. They humanized her
Yeah.
for like at the end and in the and toward the end. It's like, she's a little girl or whatever, but they didn't use her uniqueness, which was that she was crazy. I don't know. I don't think they played into it enough.
I agree.
It was disappointing. They showed not like almost nothing of the guns, and guns are like a main character of the games. Like you could shoot fire bullets and acid bullets, and there's other creatures that make a slight appearance sometimes. But then even if they fought more of them or if they were in the mix, it was a lot of raiders a lot of time who are just like
Mm.
mass crazy people, and that was just like and then Roland lives after a crazy attack for what reason, I don't know, just to meet back up with them, like, 5 minutes later, I was like, "This movie is sloppy as hell." Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Thought it was sloppy as hell. Um, don't see the movie, anybody, like, just do yourself a favor. Save it. It's not worth seeing for free, honestly. Um, it's better than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be Get Up and Leave. So for the record, the only movie I've ever got up and left was Transformers: Dark Side of the Moon, I think it was called. It may have been part 2 or 3 of the Transformers Michael Bay shit. I was just like, "This is fucking dumb," and I left, and I never do that, and I paid for that shit. So that was the only movie that you ever walk out of a film?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Never. Not yet. Okay, well,
This
one
would have been
day.
this would have been the one if I had been by
It could have
myself.
been.
I would have came back to this review and been like, I didn't even finish it. I don't even know how it ends because I left. But
Thank you for joining us, everybody, for another episode of Movie Magic Reviews. We'll be back next week with another fantastic flick. We'll see you at the movies.